Sally Field, an icon of American cinema, two-time Oscar winner, over 60 years in the industry, an estimated net worth of $55 million from Steel Magnolias to Forrest Gump. She left an unforgettable mark through honesty, strength, and a talent that could never be replaced. On the outside, she's a beloved star, but behind the scenes, she's a woman who survived abuse, who nearly lost her life in a plane accident, and who was once cut off from live television simply for speaking about peace. Those wounds shaped her, but they also led her to choose a quieter life in the Palisades. No flash, no spectacle. Yet every sea, every room, every car she owns tells the story of a life fully lived. What drives a woman once cast aside to build an empire both in art and in her private world. Join us on a journey through the luxury, the inspiration, and the many trials of Sally Field's remarkable life. If you enjoy stories like this, please remember to hit the like button. It truly helps us. And feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. Pasadena, California, 1954. A dim room lit by a single bulb, a radio humming softly with the voice of Sinatra, and a little girl named Sally, sitting quietly, dreaming of Hollywood. Sally Field was born in 1946 during a time when America had just emerged from war. But many families were still struggling to get by. When she was 4, her parents divorced. Her father left like a cold wind, leaving Sally and her mother behind in a cramped apartment where dinner often meant canned soup. There were no bedtime stories, just the steady whir of the ceiling fan and the lingering smell of old paint in the air. Her mother, Margaret, was an actress who had landed a few small roles, but the spotlight never shone brightly enough to light the whole home. Margaret remarried Jock Mahoney, a well-known stuntman at the time, handsome, famous, and distant. In her memoir, In Pieces, Sally revealed what she had kept hidden for decades. Mahoney had abused her. The memories didn't fade, but like many children of that era, she buried them deep inside. Not because it didn't hurt, but because no one ever asked. And yet, a flicker of light found its way through in the halls of her high school. Sally joined the cheerleading team, forcing a smile and raising her arms high as if she could lift the weight of darkness off her shoulders. She made friends with Cindy Williams and a few others who would later become familiar names. Then one day, standing on the school stage, reciting a few short lines, her heart pounded so loudly she could hear it. But it wasn't fear, it was something else, a strange joy. As if for the first time she was truly alive. It wasn't a blazing dream just yet, but it was the first spark in a dark room, in a life where everything seemed stacked against her. Sally had no father behind the scenes, no money, no industry connections, only a quiet will and a gaze that refused to look down. For a girl who used to sit by the window listening to planes overhead, wondering if she'd ever be able to fly, Hollywood still felt like a world away. But could a girl raised in silence and shadows truly reach the lights of Hollywood? The 1960s, a time of bonanza on television, family dinners around black and white screens, and young actresses expected to do just one thing: smile. But Sally Field didn't come to Hollywood just to smile. In 1965, she was cast as Gidget, a sunny California teenager who loved surfing, summer, and sunshine. The show aired during prime time, right after familiar sitcoms like Bewitched, but it lasted only one season. Was that the end, or the beginning of a quiet rebellion? After Gidget, Sally didn't retreat. She chose to fight. But how does a young woman, with no backing, break through the narrow roles television had carved out for her? In 1967, she returned in The Flying Nun, playing a young nun who could fly. The premise sounded odd, but the show was a hit. Sally's face became a household presence across America. Each episode earned her $4,000, equivalent to about $40,000 today. But did the audience's affection mean Hollywood was truly listening? Off-screen, Sally began to feel trapped by the very image that made her famous. Despite being a TV star, she was still a young actress without real power. And in 1960s Hollywood, there was little room for women who asked questions. She later said, "I was the cute face on a poster, but I knew I was more than that." And instead of waiting for change, Sally created her own. After The Flying Nun ended, she quietly went back to work on herself. She enrolled at the Actors Studio, the same institution that helped shape Jane Fonda and Faye Dunaway into forces of their time. There, she studied serious method acting under Lee Strasberg. No more reading lines for laughs this time. She had to reach into real pain. The result was Sybil, 1976, a groundbreaking role portraying a woman with dissociative identity disorder, deeply wounded and complex. Sally disappeared into the part, making audiences forget The Flying Nun entirely. She won the Emmy. For the first time, Hollywood recognized she was more than just a pretty face on television. Could she go even further? 3 years later, she took on Norma Ray, a Southern textile worker who dared to stand up for labor rights. The film was powerful, uncompromising, and deeply feminist. Her performance earned her the Academy Award for Best Actress in 1979. On stage, holding back tears, she said, "You like me right now. You like me," a line often misquoted over the years. But in that moment, it was a sigh of relief from a woman who had spent her entire career having to prove herself again and again. At the same time, her relationship with co-star Burt Reynolds drew public attention. They kept their private life private, but the media still cast her as the action hero's girlfriend. Sally never argued. She just kept working and let her roles speak for her. From the surfing sweetheart Gidget to the defiant Norma Ray raising her sign high, Sally Field's career became a story of transformation and resolve. She reclaimed the right to define herself, but fame is deep water, and it isn't always calm. After winning an Oscar, many actors slow down, but not Sally Field. In the 1980s, she cemented her place with Places in the Heart, earning her a second Academy Award. Over the following decades, Sally became a symbol of emotional depth, whether as the quietly aching mother in Steel Magnolias or the unforgettable voice of wisdom in Forrest Gump. Life is like a box of chocolates. She never repeated herself, even in her 60s. Sally delivered a powerful performance in Lincoln 2012, and in 2023 she was honored with the SAG Life Achievement Award recognition from her peers that she wasn't just a star, she was a standard of craft and integrity. Today, Sally Field's net worth is estimated at $55 million. Across a career spanning more than 60 years, she has earned 2 Oscars, 3 Emmys, 1 Golden Globe, and the SAG Life Achievement Award. She's appeared in classics like Places in the Heart, Steel Magnolias, Forrest Gump, and Lincoln, becoming one of the most respected actresses in America. Never loud, never showy, her accomplishments live not just on screen, but in the hearts of millions. And just like her career, the places she chooses to live don't shout, but they speak with quiet depth. From a cramped childhood apartment to an ocean view estate, Sally Field's journey wasn't just about changing addresses, it was about reclaiming herself. She's lived in many homes, but her Malibu estate was always closest to her heart. A Scandinavian-style home, over 6,000 square feet, nestled in greenery with an open view of the Pacific. An infinity pool stretched to the edge of the hill, catching the sun each evening. She often sat in a wooden armchair there, reading old scripts or simply watching sunlight scatter across the water, not performing, just being. In the living room stood a simple wooden cabinet. Inside were handwritten letters from her children, behind-the-scenes photos, and a worn script of Steel Magnolias covered in pencil notes. There were no Oscars on display, but for Sally, that corner held something far more precious, the path she had walked. Out back, a single orange tree grew, the one she planted her first year in the house. Each spring, she'd pick a few, juice them by hand, and read monologues out on the balcony. She once joked it was her third Oscar, not flashy, but nourishing and real. In 2011, she sold that home for $5.5 million, not for change, but for peace. She moved to a quiet $2.3 million apartment in Pacific Palisades. No ocean, but a view of the hills. Each morning, she brews tea, puts on a cotton robe, and stands silently on the balcony, watching mist gather on the pine trees. In the living room still sits the old armchair from Forrest Gump, beside a pine bookshelf topped with a photo of her mother, smiling on set. It was in this quiet space that she wrote, in pieces, her brave memoir, revealing a childhood of abuse and a life built in silence. Each page written in the morning light, no spotlight, no applause. Oh. Unlike many stars, Sally never chose a home to impress. She chose where to live like she chose her roles honest, still, and deep enough to feed the soul. How many stars keep their Oscars in storage but hang their grandchildren's pictures on the wall like Sally? No supercars, no custom plates, no entourage, just a woman who drives herself and prefers it that way. Sally Field never chose cars to make a statement. Her current vehicle is a Lexus RX 450h, valued around $60,000, a luxury hybrid SUV that's quiet, smooth, and environmentally conscious. Leather seats, digital display, advanced noise cancellation, but without a single flashy option. She uses it to grocery shop, visit the studio, or catch up with old friends, always driving herself. No chauffeur. And with that Lexus comes a habit each early morning. She plays soft Elton John and drives along the winding roads of Pacific Palisades, just to listen to the wind and settle my thoughts. But inside her garage is something far more meaningful, a first-generation Ford Bronco from the 1990s. Now a retro American icon. Its value runs between $35,000 and $50,000, but to Sally, it's priceless. She drove that very car during the long months filming Forrest Gump, traveling from set to set, sometimes across 3 states in a single week. The original cloth seats are untouched. The interior hasn't been redone. And behind the door, there's still a folded paper map from 1993 marked in red ink with filming locations, motels, and a roadside diner she once shared with the crew. No large logos, no award plaques, just a woman who has come a long way and chooses to travel with what brings her closer to herself. In a city built on glamour, Sally Field never chose the glamorous path. She lived and acted with restraint, focus, and truth. Her style has always been minimalist classic jeans, soft cashmere sweaters, and a wide-brimmed hat she's worn for over 20 years. Though she once represented beauty brands, she never clung to the idea of the ideal age. On the red carpet, instead of dazzling gowns, she often appears in simple long-sleeved dresses or tailored silk suits, modest, graceful, and unmistakably her. Sally has always been a modest consumer. No luxury chases, no fine jewelry collections. In one interview, she joked, "I only buy things I'll use, and I use them until they wear out." Her favorite necklace is a silver chain holding a small photo of her mother, tarnished with time, but always around her neck when she travels. She loves classic literature, arranging wildflowers, and devotes her mornings to silent meditation. On her desk in Palisades, there's always a small glass jar with lavender sprigs, a cup of herbal tea, and a dog-eared volume of Rainer Maria Rilke's poetry. That lifestyle isn't just a preference, it's a declaration. In a world chasing speed, Sally Field chooses to live slowly, deeply, and finds peace to be her greatest success after all the lights have dimmed. On screen, she once played the mother of Forrest Gump. In real life, she's the mother of 3 sons, and that's the only role she's ever played without a script. Her sons, Peter, Eli, and Sam, each with their own lives and paths, grew up in a home untouched by Hollywood excess. No scandal, no headlines, just home-cooked dinners, weekend hikes, and a mother quietly sitting in the back row at school recitals. She's especially close with her youngest, Sam Griesman, who came out as gay at a young age. Sally not only supported him, she became one of Hollywood's most compassionate voices for LGBTQ+ rights. In 2012, she received the HRC Ally Award not for politics, but for how she mothered with an open heart and without judgment. In her personal life, after 2 unsuccessful marriages and a famous relationship with Burt Reynolds, Sally chose to live alone, but she never called it loneliness. In Pieces, she wrote, "I've learned to befriend myself, and that's the one friend who's never left me." Today, her greatest joy is being a grandmother playing with her grandchildren in the backyard, telling stories with no Oscars, no cameras, just love, quiet, complete, and true. To Sally Field, the greatest performances are not the ones caught on film. They happen in silent rooms where love doesn't need an audience. Hollywood can celebrate a star, but it can also quietly turn its back. And for Sally Field, there were moments when every light seemed to fade. In 1988, during a family vacation in Aspen, Sally was involved in a personal plane accident. The aircraft attempted to take off in high winds, skidded off the runway, and hit hard. Sally was only slightly injured, but the emotional impact stayed with her. She would later call it one of those moments that forces you to slow down and be grateful just to breathe. Then in 2007, while accepting an Emmy for Brothers and Sisters, she said, "If mothers ruled the world, there would be no war." A simple sentence, but Fox cut her speech short, claiming it was too sensitive. The backlash was immediate. Some praised her courage, others labeled her naively liberal. Sally didn't apologize. She simply replied, "I'm a mother, and I know what I said is true." Years later, at the 2023 SAG Awards, when she humbly admitted she had been privileged in the industry, many found her words moving, but there were critics, too, accusing her of being performative or insincere. Sally didn't respond. She chose silence and continued to stand by what she believed. Her honesty has become even more evident in recent years. In 2022, she publicly criticized governors like Ron DeSantis for signing abortion bans, speaking from personal experience. At age 17, she underwent an illegal abortion. "No one should have to live in the fear I felt that year," she said. "No spin, no middle ground, just the truth." Though at times targeted by media backlash, even quiet blacklisting, Sally never wavered. Instead, she turned pain into purpose. She became an outspoken advocate for LGBTQ+ rights, marched alongside Jane Fonda in climate protests, and was arrested in 2019 but smiled proudly as she stepped into the police car. With time, Sally stopped trying to appear perfect in public. She accepted that being admired and being criticized can come down to a single sentence. And in that, she became a rare figure trusted in a Hollywood that often prefers polish over principle. To Sally Field, scars are part of the light. And maybe, just maybe, it's when she was pushed to the edge that she shined the most. 2 Academy Awards, 6 decades of acting, millions of fans. But for Sally Field, her greatest legacy isn't kept behind glass. It lives in how people remember a woman who gave her all and stayed kind to the very end. Once labeled the sweetheart of television, Sally broke through every stereotype to become one of the most versatile and enduring actresses in Hollywood. But instead of chasing the spotlight, she chose to go deeper into the roles she played, into the memories of her audience, and into the hearts of those who saw themselves in her characters. Her legacy doesn't just live on screen. It lives in her example, a quiet force of integrity, a voice unafraid to be misunderstood, and a heart that always stood with those who had none. From standing up for abortion rights, speaking out for LGBTQ+ equality, to marching for the environment, Sally never chose comfort. She chose truth. To young people, she's proof that you don't have to be perfect to be trusted. To women, she's a model of strength and grace, of staying grounded through every shifting tide. And to anyone who has quietly made it through their own struggles, she's a quiet reminder. You may be wounded, but you can still live beautifully. Her memoir, In Pieces, isn't just a retelling of her life. It's a gentle farewell to years of silence and an invitation to those who carry scars they've never spoken about. Through every page, Sally offers something more valuable than any award: the courage to be yourself. Today, she doesn't need a stage to shine. Being in the backyard with her grandchildren, watering the garden, Telling stories from old films they've never seen, that, too, is a performance. No spotlight, no costume, just love, memory, and peace. And maybe the greatest lesson Sally Field leaves behind is this: you don't have to win every battle. You just have to live in a way that, when you look back, you didn't abandon the best parts of who you are. In a world full of noise, her journey is a quiet reminder: real strength doesn't come from applause. It comes from the things you're still holding on to in your heart when everything else has faded. Are you holding on to something meaningful in your life? Share your story in the comments below: a memory, a lesson, or something you've overcome. And if you believe voices like Sally Field's deserve to be remembered, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us as we continue telling the most inspiring life stories of our time.